As we approach the end of Season 2A of The Owl House, it is worth looking back and reflecting on the fact that Dana Terrace, the showrunner, said that every scene we see in the trailer that they released for Season 2A is going to appear in Season 2A. None of it is going to be saved for Season 2B. So, that means that the scene we see in the trailer of Luce's mother, Camila, realizing seemingly what has happened to Luce is going to be in this next episode, Yesterday's Lie, as we have not seen this scene thus far in the show. Will Camila find her daughter? Will she realize that creepy Luce is not her daughter? Because at this point, Camila has no idea that anything is even wrong. For hints, I believe we should look to the episode description, which is short but still telling. Luce thinks she has found the way back home, but wonders if she is ready for what awaits her on the other side. Now, from this description, I think we can all extricate that the episode will focus on two conflicts. The first is the external, obvious conflict between Balos and our heroes. Balos is going to try and bring about the Day of Unity. Probably he's going to perform some strange, arcane, macabre ceremony, and it probably will involve Hunter to some extent. At this point, our heroes don't really know a lot about Balos' schemes, but they do want to stop him, presumably. So we will see whether they are able to succeed. But the much more interesting conflict to me is the internal conflict within Luce. I tend to find external conflicts to be less interesting than internal conflicts, and this is no exception. Luce is a strange protagonist. Once she was dropped into the Boiling Isles, she had a hard time finding her footing at first, but she soon found herself a little found family that was there for her and took care of her. She soon adjusted to how strange and eerie and mysteriously dark this world could be. At the end of the very first episode of the show, she is faced with the choice: either return home and be forced to go to a summer camp she hates, or stay in the Boiling Isles, and she chooses to stay. Now, I do have to admit that Luce does in fact want to return home at some point. At least she wants to visit home and contact her mother, and talk to her mother about what has transpired in the Boiling Isles. And because of that, she is concerned with how the border between the two worlds has become closed. Yet she has no burning desire to leave the Boiling Isles behind. This is in significant contrast with, say, Anne from Amphibia, or Chihiro from Spirited Away, to name two characters my audience would presumably be familiar with. The primeval mythical quest narrative from which these journeys derive holds that the character, after learning from their experiences and incorporating parts of what they have seen in their experiences into themselves, returns home a wiser and more thoughtful and mature person, with a greater appreciation of themselves and the world around them. They still want to be part of the world where they had previously existed. If Luce, in the end, doesn't really want to return home, not permanently, what would Camila think? I do not assume Camila would take it particularly well. Now, I'm still young, but I'm older than the average viewer of this channel, given the demographic data I've taken in the past. So, I must say that I am old enough that I probably relate more to Camila in this situation than I do to Luce. What would I do if I lost a daughter in another world, a mysterious and dangerous and dark and enigmatic world, then discover that she didn't really want to return home? It would be heartbreaking, and Luce, we must remember, is only 14 years old. Admittedly, Luce has grown significantly since she initially came to the Boiling Isles back at the beginning of the series. Strangely, the perfect antidote to her obsessive love of fantasy is to actually be transported into a fantasy world. In certain respects, the world fulfills all her expectations. She has new experiences. She's enmeshed in all that is strange and fantastical and wondrous, in a world infused with magic, and she has people who love her and care about her there. But the Boiling Isles is far from the idealized fantasy world she had imagined being in when she was back on Earth trying to find some sort of mental escapism from her studies, which she deemed quite boring and tedious. Having to shoulder a lot more responsibility in the Boiling Isles than she did on Earth, she retains the creativity and imagination that she had on Earth, while also gaining some much needed perspective of the world outside herself and much needed ability to not just rush in and be impulsive, but actually take a step back and consider what is required of her in a given situation. That's growing up. She is far from the same kid that Camila sent off to summer camp. And because of this, I believe that Luce does have the right to stay in this world if she wants to make that decision for herself. I'll say a version of what I said about Marcy's decision to stay in Amphibia, and that is that there is nothing wrong with the teenager of that age making a grand decision like that, as long as they know why exactly they are making that for themselves. However, we should not push the comparisons between Luce and Marcy too far. Marcy has an antagonistic relationship with her old home life. We see her rush out in tears in the Season 2 finale of Amphibia. And the fact that she, after being in Amphibia for half a year, has no desire to return home says, honestly, quite a bit more about her disdain for her old life than anything she has actively said or done. Luce, despite her dislike for her mundane reality, does want to return at some point. Maybe not permanently, but she does want to go back. She does love her mother, and she doesn't want her mother to keep freaking out, as Luce is sure her mother is doing. So will Camila find Luce in the Season 2A finale? I think it's pretty clear at this point that she will discover what has happened to Luce, but that does not necessarily mean she will find Luce. Still, there is a significant possibility that she will find Luce, and even if this is not in the Season 2A finale, I assume it will happen at some point in Season 2B. I also would like to warn everyone who is expecting a warm and tender and very sweet reunion between these two. It might not be that simple. Now, I don't doubt that Camila loves Luce and wants to see her come back, whatever Luce has done or whatever choices Luce has made. None of that matters nearly as much as seeing one's daughter again. And I don't doubt that Luce wants to see Camila again. She's always trying to get all these pieces of information through to her mother. She wants to retain a close contact with her mother. She wants her mother in her life. But will Luce want to come home forever? That is not a question I think we have a clear answer to. There's no easy resolution to that dilemma. What if Camila expects Luce to want to come back forever and Luce doesn't want to do that? What if she wants to keep spending her life in the Boiling Isles? I don't believe that Luce would be okay with going back forever, and not because of the childish and idealistic fantasies that she originally had at the start of the series. Rather, I think her reluctance to leave this world behind forever is somewhat justified, especially considering how much she has grown in this world, how many memories she has formed here, and especially how many close relationships she has made since coming here, especially with King and her surrogate mother Ida and her girlfriend Amity. It doesn't seem like Luce was very popular back home, but now she finally has a place for herself. I don't blame her for not wanting to give that up. Luce has never been one to think for a long time about a plan before executing on it. Now, admittedly, Luce has gotten significantly better at that as the show has progressed. She's not quite as spontaneous, but nonetheless, she has been so focused on trying to figure out how to fix the border between the Boiling Isles and the human realms that she has not spent a lot of time considering what will happen if or when that border is fixed. What will she do? What choices will she make? These oversights on her part will have consequences for Luce, and these consequences will not be universally positive. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can, and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching The Owl House. I can't believe we're already here at the precipice of the Season 2A finale. It's been wonderful being on this ride with y'all. Our individual lives all linked together by our experiences watching the show and the ideas we've shared. That coming together, that overcoming of our individual egos and our isolated perspectives is something really beautiful that talking about a show like this can do for us all. So anyway, tune in soon for our next analysis. It will be coming soon. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.